Alright, so I'm back, and today we're going to take a look at, we're actually, the main part of the review is going to be the new Maketoys Skyclone figure, but we have the Acid Storm as well, so I figured we'll take a quick look at this guy. Not focus too much because we've seen this all before. This one was a little bit of an older exclusive. I think it was just a TF Source exclusive, I believe. But there's some retooling on the Skyclone that I want to show off, and the best way to show it off is against the original mold. So let me just grab a couple other guys here. And so here he is with the G2 Screamer and the Dirge. So these are all just, like, these two are just straight repaints of each other. And then he's obviously a retool. And these two are also repaints of the original Starscream, Skywarp, Thundercracker, and Sunstorm. And they were going to do, I believe it was Skyclone as a, what do you call it? The crowdfunding one, where they were going to crowdfund him, and it failed. So, this guy was a floppy mess. Especially this hip joint right here. And that carries over with just about every single one of these molds I've ever looked at. It's just awful. And there's not much to do about it. They really should have, like, when they're going in and like, oh, we gotta retool this, they really should have retooled this part right here. Like, they should have, there are ways they should have made this. I think part of it's die cast, if I remember correctly, but they should have made it all plastic and put like a soft ratchet in there. It doesn't even need a heavy duty ratchet, just a soft one. That's all I would need. So he was a bummer because I was so excited for him. His packaging is the only saving grace for him. And then the Dirge, the biggest bummer on him, he's got the same issue. It's not as bad, but it is bad. But the biggest bummer on him is that we're still waiting for Ramjet and Thrust. Alright. So the Acid Storm, he actually... he's got the same issue, but it's not nearly as bad. I love the color scheme on him. The white is like an off-white. It's not just a straight white. It almost has like a green tint to it, which is really nice. And it could just be all the green reflecting off of it. It's definitely a possibility. Either way, I love the way it looks. And then you got the brighter green with the darker green for accents. I think it just comes off really nice. And he came with blast effects, 2 little missile pods, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 alternate faces. So not much else to really go into. I think this because I got him, it made me really, really want to get more Maketoys Seekers. It actually made me question on whether or not I wanted to replace my Takara 2.0 Seekers. Or I guess they're actually 3.0 at this point, aren't they? It made me question that and sit there and be like, maybe I should get some... get the original Starscream, Skywarp, Thundercracker, and then have the whole line in this mold. It was definitely something I questioned. I don't know what the dog is doing in the background, so I apologize. But anyway, really great looking figure. I would give him you know, it was a TF Source exclusive, so that's the only knock against it I have, is the fact that I don't like dealing with TF Source, which is where I got the Skyclone from too, because I guess they're doing the exclusives on these guys. Let me pause this for just a second. Okay, so now that the crisis with the dog is averted, okay. So I just wanted to show off this box real quick. There's something really wrong with this figure, and they've got it on the box, and they're trying to hide it. And it's this right here. I'll show you that in more detail here in a second, and show you what I mean. I don't know if this video is going to come out and help anybody, because this thing's sold out at this point, but I'm just hoping that, you know, I didn't know any of this when I ordered the figure, so but we'll get to that. So there's top of the box, back of the box. There's another reason why I'm showing all this off. We'll get there in a minute. Another issue that I have is, you know, take a look at the hands. Okay. Take a look at the hands. You know, remember those hands. Okay. So, and here is the figure. So, the first issue I have with it, let's talk about the hands. Because these hands are not the ones that are on the box. These hands are not the ones from the original figures. So here is the original hand. Okay, it's a little bit small. Okay, but it fits for the transformation, and it looks fine on the figure. You know, you got the big forearm, followed by the smaller hand. The hand is one piece for, you know, the actual hand part and the thumb. Mushroom peg at the bottom to plug it in. The bottom 3 fingers are on one metal pin, and then the top finger has 2 metal pins in it to give it 2 points of articulation. Okay, very simple. Kind of pretty similar to the standard of the time of the MP style, like MP10, for example. It's very similar to that style of hand. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns on that? No? Okay. Alright, so this hand, on the other hand, it's big and blocky. It's just like a square. It looks awful. It just looks bad. And what they've done is they've given it individual articulations. So each finger is on a tiny ass ball peg. Which when it came out of the box, I had to reattach 3 or 4 of them. And then each one has 2 points of articulations after the ball joints on these little friction pins. There you go. This is why I fucking hated KFC hands. I hated them. Because, oh, you move it slightly wrong and it falls out. And guess what? It's a tiny ass finger with a tiny ass ball peg. I mean, seriously, it's just awful. It's garbage. It is just straight garbage. I've got nothing good to say about that. The thumb has a single ball peg at the top, and then one hinge, and then where the ball peg is placed, you don't have a lot of options for the thumb. It sits straight up like this. It could sit straight down like this, or you can rotate it up like this. You know, it's you know, if you're gonna do a ball peg on the thumb, make it the cut on this side so it can come out and like this, as opposed to only being able to go like this. You know, it's awful. I hate this hand. I hate them. I think they look terrible in comparison to what they had. And it just doesn't make sense to me that they would switch the hand, you know, this far down the line. You know, all of a sudden they're like, oh, you know what? He needs a different hand. But the worst part is, and there's a reason why I'm only showing you this one right now, because I want to show you the second one here in a second, just so that I can emphasize on what I really, really hate about these things, is they've only made one sculpt. And what they've done is they just recast this hand twice. One for the left hand and one for the right hand. Look, you can see a little stress mark going where that ball peg came out. So, if you look at it from this angle, you can see there's the little cap for the ball peg for the thumb. So they just rotate it around to make the other hand. The problem is these hands are held on by these mushroom pegs. So, on his right hand, he gets the nice mushroom peg right in the top. It's hard to see because of the camera, but in person it looks terrible. He's got the mushroom peg right here on the top. So it's just like, oh, hey, look, there's the big gap. When this one doesn't have it. And now, I'm not trying to criticize like how awful these hands. Well, I am. They look awkward. They don't function well. The fact that they only sculpted one, all of that is terrible. It's just terrible. But what makes it worse in my mind, like I could forgive this if this was a new figure. But what makes it terrible is the fact that they have hands. These hands function just fine. There is nothing wrong with these hands whatsoever. So to switch a midstream like this is just, it doesn't make sense. And, you know, I know how molding works. You know, you have the big frame. I really doubt that they retooled the frame or the actual mold to make these new hands. These were probably put on a separate mold. And that's what really doesn't make sense to me, is the fact that they probably have the original hand sitting somewhere on a cutting room floor that they didn't include in the box. Okay, enough of that rant. The next one, I gotta zoom in for this, so let's see if I can do that right, is the head. This head is a new head, and it's awful. So one of the original complaints with this mold that a lot of people had, not everybody, some people enjoyed it, was the fact that the original heads were small. And that was one of my original complaints. So as you can see from Acid Storm here is the smaller head. Okay? Kind of makes him look like he's got a pinhead. Okay? So they make a bigger head. But the sculpt is terrible on this thing. Try and get them both in. Here, let me just see if I can pull this off. Alright. And I'm not going to pull his off. Oh, look. Hey, look. One of the fingers fell off. It's the same one. There's a reason why I don't like individually articulated fingers. Alright. So he does come with the original head as well. So, I mean, at least we could switch that out. But it's like, if this is what they're trying to do to make this mold better, you know, they're failing miserably. So here's the new head, here's the original head. So basically all they did, you know, it's significantly bigger. It's still got the little springy sides. I don't know if it will work for transformation or not because it's bigger. And I'm not planning on trying it because I'm not transforming this guy. You know, it just, we've seen that reviews or done that so many times. But so they kept the face the same size. The faces are the same size. They just made the forehead bigger. I mean, if you're gonna resculpt the head, resculpt the fucking head, the whole thing. Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me. It's just so mind-boggling. Like, you're going to do all the extra work to make a new head, but you're not going to give it a new face. You're giving it the same face. That was my biggest complaint about the original Starscream, because I thought the face looked awful. And then, look how awful of a paint job they did on those eyes, too. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. Now, this face doesn't seem like it's in there all the way either. There we go. That's better. So it's just, you know, they did a better job on the eyes on this one. You know, and, you know, it's like, while I wish they had a bigger head, I wish it was scaled entirely bigger, not this. This just looks so bad. It is just hysterical. I don't understand what's going on here. It's just doesn't make any sense. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. It's oh man. Okay. So now we got that sorted out. Let's take a look at the other accessories he comes with. He does come with his null rays. These are cast all in blue, all in purple, not blue. And he does come with the little missile pods as well. And you just untab that, drop that one on the floor so you'll never find it again. And there you go. So that's for the jet mode. Oh, that's nice. Just untab the whole thing. Let's get that back together, right? I don't think that ever happened on any of the other ones. Oh well, no harm, no foul. Alright, so he's got the null rays. They look fine. No issues with those whatsoever. He also does come with 2 blast effects. The Acid Storm actually did come with 2 blast effects as well. But I sold all my blast effects a while back, and when I got those in, I'm like, here, take these 2. And then that they could just tab on there, so you got that if you want it. Alright. Then we can just plug these back on, or plug these in. And that is tight. But that's okay. There we go. I don't think there's any stress marks forming. Alright, and now we're going to take the smaller head and plug that on. And that looks so much better. Just infinitely better than what we had with that big, goofy looking head. For some reason, it seems to be like kind of angled down. Oh well. It looks better, especially like when you have like Acid Storm there, so they're all the same size. And that's another thing that doesn't make sense. It's like you go with one that's bigger instead of all of them. You know, stuff like this and the hands, that should have been like, oh, hey, here's an upgrade kit for all of the Seekers in case you want them. You know, do them all at once, not just have one random Seeker with new hands and new heads. It doesn't feel right. because now he's got bigger hands and a smaller head, and so he needs a bigger head to kind of make that work. But because his big head's so stupid looking, kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Alright, he's got one more accessory that we'll look at here in a second. Let's just go over articulation. So the head is on the ball peg, left to right, not really much up, a little bit down. Shoulders ratchet up and down, in and out. Bicep swivel, double bent elbow. Hands do rotate. We already talked about the fingers. Is there a waist swivel? I can't remember. Yeah, they have a waist swivel and a little bit of an ab crunch. This, again, is still loose. Again, like I said, it's like if they were going to retool anything on this mold, it should have been in there. Hips seem a little loose going out, and then there's a thigh swivel. It's super tight. This is where the die cast is, and it's like, I wish they wouldn't have done that. Bends at the knee. Things kind of come untabbed when I did that a little bit. There we go. And then the foot has the rocker, ratcheted toe tilt. All that works just fine. So he's built about as well as the Acid Storm, a little looser in some spots. Other issues I've had with him is like the wings don't stay quite as tabbed in, but the tolerance on the actual hinges is pretty tight, so it kind of stays up anyway. So it's like kind of give and take. These things I have a problem popping off. If I just move them too much. So that's a little bit of an annoyance, similar to my G2 Screamer, who just kind of falls apart when you look at him wrong. But overall, not terrible when it comes to just the overall functionality of the figure itself. Setting him off to the side real quick. Now the other accessory that he comes with is he's got this little plate here, which I don't know what it's for. I'm guessing jet mode, and I say I'm guessing because I there's no instructions for it. It's not on the box. I showed you the box. Here are the instructions, and it's just showing how to go from robot mode to jet mode, and there's nothing in here about this piece. So, and I can't figure out any place to put it. They have a little YouTube scan code. So I scanned it, and it says, and it goes back to the original transformation video, and it's like, oh well, that doesn't really help. So it's like it almost seems like it wants to fit right in here. But there's nothing for it to latch on to. So I'm guessing that it's something for jet mode. And it's like, it's got these pegs, and it seems like maybe they could fit on the back of the legs, but the legs, like, you'd have to really get it out to make that work. So I don't see how that would be the right call there. So it's like, short of putting them into robot mode or jet mode and messing around with it there, I don't have a good answer for you guys on how to utilize that. I just, there's nothing telling me what to do. He also does come with this, which kind of goes with this, is this display stand. So my guess is when you get it into jet mode, you can take this and plug this into here. Somehow. Like that. And like it would cradle the jet. But it's like, it almost seems like it should work, you know, like this, and you could cradle the robot as well. But I can't seem to get that to function. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer. It's all clear plastic. It's got a nice hard ratchet on the bottom and a not as hard ratchet on the top, but hard enough. So I would imagine it really could hold the weight of the figure with minimal to no effort. I just don't know if there is a way to maybe. Okay, there we go. So it kind of seems like this port here seems to plug into this there, so you don't need that white piece at all. And I have to get legs out of the way a little bit. And there you go. Okay. Alright. Yeah, and it holds the figure up just fine. So, alright, so that's how that works. You just have to move this plate up out of the way, which, you know, I mean, isn't the worst thing considering all the back kibble anyway. So I guess, yeah, if that's the way you want to do it, cool. Again, that would have been a cool, like, little pack, like, oh, here's all the new heads, the hands, and stands for all the old Seekers. You know, I actually probably would have purchased it just for this, and I might actually utilize that for my G2 Screamer, since he has a hard time with just about anything. It did seem like it scraped up that die cast a little bit. And then underneath, here he's got his faces. Looks like you can store the null rays down here as well. Or something, but here he's got the extra faces down here. Like the smirky face, the less smirky face, and the smiley face, which just looks bad. And it looks like they botched all the paint on the eyes on this one too. So yeah. That's the Maketoys Skyclone. Yeah, I was really hoping that we were going. I just, you know, it's like some of the changes they made. Okay, cool. You know, like the stand. Like, okay, I get it. You know, it works. I might actually utilize that. But the new head sculpt, you know, at least it came with the old head sculpt. If it didn't come with the old head sculpt, this probably would be on one of the Facebook groups right now to sell. Because that just looks awful. But the fact that it doesn't come with the original hands either is a big bummer. And it makes me, you know, slightly more okay that I missed out on the blue one, Ion Storm, I think it is. But for now, these are going to be my Rainmakers. I was going to get the Ion Storm, but because his blues look so much like Thundercracker, I couldn't do it. I just was like, no, he looks too, you know, having him stand next to Thundercracker would just be like, oh, I've got two Thundercrackers. Yeah, I want, you know, I would prefer a yellow one, like Sunstorm, like if they were to reissue him, instead of the G2 Screamer. But for now, the G2 Screamer is going to be my stand-in third Seeker. So yeah, I would give him a 9 out of 10. The big 8 out of 10. The hip still is a problem with the Acid Storm, and the fact that I had to order it through TF Source. Those are my two biggest gripes on that figure. And for the Skyclone, man, I hate giving out so many low scores, because I gave out so many low scores on the last few figures I reviewed. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. The purples are nice. The white's nice. The new display stand is nice. The remaked head is awful, and the remaked hands are garbage. They're just straight garbage, and it detracts from the figure for me. I do not like those hands at all. I do not like that head at all. And like I said, if I didn't have an alternate head, if I didn't have the original alternate head to put on there, he would be gone. I would be selling this guy. I would be out. I'm done with it. You know, like, that's how much I hate that head and the hands. But I couldn't stand looking at that figure. But since it came with the original head as well, you know, I'm slightly a little. I'm going to keep it, but it's just one of those, like, you know, I wish it would have came with alternate hands as well as alternate heads. You know, that would have just been really nice to have one extra set of hands to switch them out. And it, like I said, they were probably on the frame somewhere, and they're sitting somewhere in a factory floor, just not gonna get used, and that's a big bummer. I really think they should have, like I said, I think they could make some money if they were to sell the head and hands with the display base separate, rather than having to rebuy the whole figure to get them. So for the people that do like those kind of hands, can just purchase the hands. So yeah, that's what I got there. I mean, he's got black hands and he's got black hands, so I can swap them out, but then now I wouldn't have an extra set of hands for him. So I don't know. Which I guess could work if I get the Sunstorm. That's an option, because then I could put him back into jet mode and put him back in the packaging, because the packaging is the best part of the figure. That's an idea. Maybe. We'll see. But, you know, I'm liking the way that it's coming out to have all these multicolored Seekers, but still bummed out on those hands. They're just awful. So I guess that's all I got.